This is the bathtub in my master bath, and the surround is a little plain. So in the shower, they installed this decorative band of tile, and there's some of that tile left over. So what I'm going to try is adding some of this tile as an accent around the tub, maybe in the front, and then up along the top as well. This is the front of the tub, and I only need to demo the tile at the top. And I got concerned if I started to peel that away, it would pull away the tiles on the bottom. So I started chipping with a screwdriver into the grout to create a natural break point. I have some tools that would grind this grout out, like a Dremel or an angle grinder, but that would kick up a lot of dust, so I just stuck with the screwdriver. So this was a little bit of a pain. The middle tile, all the mortar stuck to the back of the tile, which was great. On this first tile, all the mortar was still on the tile board. I did not want to replace the tile board if I didn't have to, so I just resigned myself to knocking off the mortar with a screwdriver and a hammer. I got this tile saw maybe 20 years ago, and its age is definitely showing. But I will say I've never changed the diamond blade on this. It's been cutting just fine through all that time. And it did pretty well through this project, except at the very end it was starting to chip the porcelain tile, which is a sign that the blade's getting dull. So I'll either need to replace this blade or maybe just get a new tile saw. I didn't have to buy new tile for this job, which was great. These were just leftover tiles from the builder. On these little black tiles, I'm taking care to keep my fingers away from the blade, but honestly I haven't found that to be too big of a deal with the diamond blade. It's not like a table saw where there's teeth that are going to chop your finger off. These blades cut through abrasion, and so even accidentally rubbing your finger against this blade is not it's not a huge deal. But don't do that. One issue that popped up is that these two tiles were installed pigeon-toed. They were closer to the drywall in the center and further at the edges, and they were so close to the drywall that the black tile was going to stick out. So I had to shave some of the wall down and try to give myself room to work. So many different kinds of mortar. I guess I had forgotten since the last tile project, but this is mortar particularly for use with porcelain tile. And they even make different mortars depending on whether you're going to use it on a wall or a floor. I have never put up one of these decorative bands that has a mesh backing, and it is so much harder than I thought it would be. You can't have too little mortar or else the tile will sit back too far. You can't have too much mortar or else when you push the tile back, it will all seep through the mesh out the front of the tile. And it's really hard to get the spacing right. Normally you would just use spacers, but these things individually move on the mesh, and so they all have a little bit of wiggle in them. I wish I could say I found the perfect way to put these up, but I did not. I tried using just a flat board to press them into the mortar and get them nice and flat. But without spacers under them, they would sag too close to the tile below, so then I had to go back and put spacers, which interfered with pushing the board against them. I think using the palm of your hand to test for flatness is a good idea. Just run it left, right, up, and down, and you can feel the bumps and waves. And then each of these tiles is individually adjustable, so you can go back and angle one this way or that way. Since the decorative band can't bear any weight, it'll squish. My intention was to put it up and let it dry and then do the upper tile in a separate pass. The problem with that, though, is that you need the top of this decorative band to be flush with the bottom of the next row of tile. So if that tile's not up, you don't have a good frame of reference to get everything leveled up. So what I ended up doing was going ahead and installing this top row of tile, and to keep the weight off the decorative band, I just used painter's tape to secure it above. Sorry for my greasy hair. I washed it for you in the next shot. So pretty tedious with doing the spacers underneath the tile. If somebody knows a better way to do it, I would love to hear it in the comments. Having those spacers there really gets in the way of you just running your hand along the tile to feel for flatness. Some of these tiles I'm just sticking on the wall right on top of the mortar. Some of them I'm putting mortar on the back of the tile and then putting it on the wall. I have heard that it's very important to put mortar on the back of the tile. But I can tell you that I had to take one or two of these off and readjust them. And even for the ones where I did not put mortar on the back of the tile, it was very stuck to the wall. And when I pulled it away, there was a ton of mortar stuck to the back of the tile. So I didn't have any concerns about whether this tile was going to stick to the wall, whether I put mortar directly on the back of it or not. I was running out of decorative tile by this point, and so the pieces I had left were missing tiles or had already been cut into strips that were too small, so I'm having to jigsaw them together here. So ideally, you would use unsanded grout for small joints, like in these decorative tiles, and sanded grouts for the bigger joints, like between the big gray tiles. The store only carried my matching grout color and sanded in a 25-pound bag, which was overkill for the amount that I would need. So I just ordered a smaller box of the unsanded grout, and I went ahead and used it both in these little joints and also in the wider joints. I don't know if that's going to end up being a problem, but if it cracks, I can just scrape it out and bite the bullet and buy the sanded grout and redo it. There's not that many joints, so it's not a huge deal. Grouting is maybe the most satisfying part of the project because you can start to see the tile really pop, but it's also really tedious because after you work the grout into the tile, you got to get off as much as you can with the float, and then it seems like you just sponge off the excess forever. You think you've got it clean, it hazes up, you go back, you responge, and you just do that over and over. Where a tile meets at a corner, you're not supposed to use grout because the walls can move and then cause the grout to crack at that joint. So you're supposed to use caulk. I did buy caulk that matched the grout that I was using and used that in both of these corners. Everywhere the tile meets the wall, I'm just using white caulk. And then after that dries, I'm going back with the wall color paint to blend it in. Here's the finished product. I think it turned out good. This project was almost free. The tile was free. I had the tools, and I just paid for the mortar and the grout, so that was nice. Dealing with those mesh tiles was a little more of a pain than I would have liked, but at least I learned a few things. And this is all the leftover tile that I had, so not bad.